So good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order. I don't know the official time, but it is, thank you, 7:01. It is Tuesday, September 14th, 2021, and this is the Greenberg Central School District Board of Education. We're going to open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, so I ask everyone to please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to ask everyone to remain standing. I'm sorry. I know it's very hot, but I'm going to ask everyone to remain standing and please bow their heads for a moment. We're going to have a moment of silence to recognize the victims of the terrorist attack that occurred in this country on September 11th, 2001, and it's the 20-year anniversary this past Saturday, as well as the surviving families and people who have medical and mental health consequences of the terrorist attack. So please bow your heads and we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. And moving on in our items, we're going to anticipate an adjournment to executive session. May I have a motion, please?
I move to adjourn to executive session.
To discuss the employment history of particular persons being considered for board action this evening and at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Second. It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We're in executive session. Thank you.
I don't know.
Okay.
Ivy, do we have any public speakers? No? Okay. All right, great. So, good evening. We're back from executive session, and we've just stopped our executive session for a moment. We will be returning to executive session, but first we would like to move along to our agenda item number A5, tenure approval. I need a motion, which is on, doesn't have page number, it looks like the third page, under admin content.
I move that we approve instructional personnel item B1 listed on this evening's agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? And hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Congratulations, Ms. Almonte. We just granted you tenure. You're officially forever, however long you'd like, to be a member of the Greenberg Central School District. Thank you. Do you mind coming up to say hello and introduce yourself to anyone who does not know who you are, tell where you permanently work, and what you do? Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Baby's kicking a lot, so she appreciates it, or he appreciates it. I don't know. But my name is Carolina Monte. I'm the middle school, high school guidance counselor. This is my first year in high school, so I've been with the middle school for 4 years now. So it's nice because I know this upcoming class, so it's exciting. The eighth grade, the seniors now, I had them when they were 8th graders, so it's exciting. So I'm actually excited to see them graduate because I had them first and now they leave. So it's a good, it's nice for me. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Almonte, and
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you all. So we're going to go back and return to executive session. Can I hear a motion from someone? The motion should be on the front
I
page.
move that we adjourn to executive session to discuss the employment history of particular persons being considered for board action this evening and at the next meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded.
Discussion?
Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'm just making sure that we do not have any public comments tonight. There were none. Okay, thank you.
Okay, discussion is ended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We're in exec session. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We are back out of executive session. Thank you for your patience. And as far as I understood from our last break, there were no statements from the public, so we're going to move to our next agenda item, which is item A7, our superintendent's report.
Good evening, and thank you, President Mayers. And good evening, everyone. I want to start off by thanking the parents of ECP and LF Jackson, for attending my parent voice session that I held on Monday. I want to thank you for being there. We had over 101 parents who joined the meeting. It was a very enjoyable meeting. I had an opportunity to go over the vision for the district, the listening learning tool that I'm engaged in, what it is, and what kind of data will be collected through this experience, and the role the parents will play. Parents also had an opportunity to ask questions of me and have me respond. It was well attended, and I want to thank the parents for that. My next parent tour voice session will be at Bailey on Monday, the 20th, and then in October, I will be at Highview, October the 4th, and October 13th. So parents of every school population will have the opportunity to join me in one of these voice sessions to listen, to give me the opportunity to learn from you, listen and learn, and you have the opportunity to ask questions of me around the vision and what we're doing here in the district. So thank you again for being there. I thoroughly enjoyed meeting with you. My purpose tonight is to provide a very brief update on where we are as a district with COVID testing. Last month, if you remember, I mentioned that Greenberg Central School District had signed up to partner with the Westchester County Department of Ed to identify a research lab who will be on our site to provide on-site testing for our students and our teachers and our district staff. This process has moved along. We are deep in the woods trying to figure out the details, but we are ready to begin that program. And for the reasons that we know, there's been an increase in the circulation of the Delta variant, and it's twice as transmissible as the early SARS-CoV strain was, and especially in settings like health facilities and school public areas. And so this will serve as another layer of prevention to our students and our faculty and staff to provide an environment that they can feel safe while in person for instruction. So this new guidance was received by all school districts September the 2nd from our commissioner that mandates that effective immediately that all schools must remain in effect full in person, but we're now required to implement required screening, that's testing for COVID, on a weekly basis. All schools are required to offer this testing to unvaccinated staff and students on a weekly basis. This testing is required for students and teachers or staff who, regardless of vaccination status too, who are symptomatic or asymptomatic following exposure to someone with COVID. And staff can opt out of this testing if they want to show documentation of being fully vaccinated and or getting tested weekly at a healthcare facility of their choice. The only exceptions to this COVID testing are for individuals with symptoms that are attributable to pre-existing medical conditions or a note from a healthcare provider who says and explains to the district and sends a documentation that there's an alternative, a diagnosis of a student or a teacher that will prevent them from participating in the testing. So where we are right now, the company we're going to be partnering with is called Mirimus, M-I-R-I-M-U-S. This is a research lab that the Westchester County Department of Ed is partnering with and has assigned to Greenberg Central. Mirimus will be on our campus to provide this weekly testing once we set up all the logistics on a weekly basis, and to protect our students and our parents and our students and our teachers from this terrible disease. The responsibilities of the company is to, as a district, we just have to be able to provide a place for them to enter, access, and use the space on site to do this testing of collection, pickup, and drop-off. The program will initially begin with a gateway where all teachers and staff, as well as students who consent to do this testing, will be included. So what will be coming out very shortly will be a consent form to all of our parents and to all of our staff, trying to get numbers of all those who will consent to want to take this testing, and that is the gateway testing. Once we get those numbers, 20% of those persons will be tested weekly. Mirimus gives the district latitude around picking those random samples of 20% of the population to be tested, but those who are unvaccinated will be prioritized, and those with consent forms from parents who would like their students to be tested will also be prioritized in this testing. Let's see. So right now, we're in the process of planning all the logistics. So what the district's responsibility is to be available for Mirimus. This testing is free. It does not cost the district a dime. Mirimus shows on campus with their own staff. They bring the kits, and they set up. We just will have to designate with them what date that they will be here, the location, where they will be in every building, and the time. Teachers will be able to get this testing during the day, and students of parents who allow or consent for their child to be tested will be tested on a weekly basis. So more to come. Just wanted to make sure I announced that we are moving along and that we are going to be implementing a program where you are vaccinated and or tested weekly, and it is mandated now. So stay tuned.
Thank you so much, Dr. Iverson. Trustees, are there any questions, any input, comments? If not, we're going to move on. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move forward. Next, we have our board approval items, work session approvals. We have our instructional personnel items. I need a motion. If you need suggestion, the motion is written on the second to last page.
I move that we approve the instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening, with the exception of item B1, which was approved earlier.
I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, we're going to move on to section C, non-instructional personnel items. I need a motion.
I move that we approve the non-instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We're going to move on to section D, board action. Yes?
One question, are we adding items to this?
We will be adding items after section D. Thank you for asking.
Great.
Section D, board action items. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the board action items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries. So there are two addendums to the agenda. So I have two resolutions that are not printed in the agenda as written or as you will find online. I apologize for that. There was some executive session business that the board needed to discuss prior to putting this on the agenda. After discussing this, the board felt pretty unanimously, along with our recommendation from our superintendent, that we should go ahead and move forward with these recommendations this evening. So the first recommendation is for an non-instructional appointment or instructional appointment? Thank you for clarity, Ivy. It's an instructional appointment of Miss Lisa Raymond, who is our current interim assistant superintendent of business. I'm going to read the motion. Be it resolved that this recommendation by the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the probationary appointment of Lisa Raymond in the administrative tenure area of assistant superintendent for business at a salary of $197,000, prorated effective September 22nd, 2021, ending December 20th, 2024. Lisa Raymond is certified as a school business administrator, which qualifies her to serve in the schools of New York State. Lisa Raymond shall be assigned district-wide for the 2021-2022 school year. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the terms and conditions of employment for Lisa Raymond as set forth in a letter directed to her dated September 14th, 2021. Per the attorney, Lisa Raymond's service as the interim assistant superintendent for business counts toward her probationary period. Her interim appointment became effective December 21st, 2020. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
But what exactly did you move, Mr. Werner?
I moved the instructional appointment of Lisa Raymond as you just read.
Thank you. And it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Congratulations, Ms. Raymond. My second motion here is for an instructional appointment of Woodlands Middle High School Assistant Principal. Be it resolved that, as recommended by the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education approves the probationary appointment of Ms. Veronica Henriquez to the administrative tenure area of Assistant Principal at a salary of $110,554, Administrative Step 1, effective September 22nd, 2021, ending September 21st, 2025. Veronica Henriquez is certified as a school administrator or school supervisor, which qualifies her to serve in the schools of New York State. Note, Veronica Henriquez shall be assigned to Woodlands Middle High School for the 2021-2022 school year, replacing Ashley Jackson, whose resignation was approved at the June 29th, 2021 Board of Education meeting. May I get a motion, please?
I move that we appoint Veronica Enriquez in accordance with the motion you just read.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. I just want to note for the public, if you were following our agenda, we did hire an assistant superintendent for curriculum tonight. We made our assistant superintendent for business a probationary appointment from interim, and we just hired an assistant principal position. The assistant superintendent for curriculum and the assistant principal will be here in person to meet them on camera at our next board meeting, which is our regular meeting scheduled for next Tuesday at 7 p.m. So just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention because we normally meet the staff when we hire them. Okay, so next on our agenda is item F2, which is a discussion regarding the board meeting format. If you recall, at our last special meeting, we discussed having board meetings in person or having them virtually. We had a split 4-3 vote on that, and we agreed to bring this up again tonight. I see Ms. Vallon. You looked as if you wanted to say something. No? Okay. So we agreed by a vote of 4-3 or discussion to stay in person. I don't know if anyone has any further opinions about that, any further discussion. We did agree at that time to have all committees be virtual. So look for online for committee processes. I don't know if anyone wants to have any further discussion about it, or if we're going to leave our board meetings in person. Yes, Mr. Pineda?
I just would like to add, if we recall at the tail end of that conversation during our last meeting, we did ask the superintendent for her thoughts on the matter, and she stated, and Dr. Iverson, correct me if I misstate anything, please, but in following the layering approach of trying to minimize transmission, that your entire staff, for the most part, was meeting virtually so that you would avoid large numbers of people. That said, I know we had already had the conversation, but I think everyone should think of that as a perspective as well as a lens, and consider if you still think that in-person is the best route to go, considering the superintendent's thought process. Thank you.
Any other trustee have input on that? I do want to go on record to say that we have had a few cases here and there in district. Thankfully, it has not been a large number of people as yet, but I am open definitely to revisiting this decision if, cases do rise in our area and or in our district. Dr. Iverson?
We are continuing to meet virtually. The meeting I, in fact, had last night with the parents of ECP and LF Jackson was virtual, 101 persons, as I said, on the call. It worked very well, and during that meeting, parents even had an opportunity to complete a survey for me. So we have found ways to continue to function effectively virtually, and I am holding staff accountable and to assuring that we do that for the sake of, it is in our reopening plan, it's our layer prevention strategy, and we just want to keep everyone safe. You just heard me mention that there is a rise in the variant. We've had a couple of COVID cases this week, which I've shared with the board, and we're just trying to minimize that as much as possible. And so we're just trying to model that throughout all of our practices. So we will continue to support that until further notice.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Iverson. I don't hear any other trustee wishing to be seen, so
I
let's
think
move
David
on
has
to
his
the
hand up.
Yes, I'm sorry,
Okay,
Mr. Warner.
so if the status of the schools changes, if the cases rise to the point at which we're actually keeping kids remote, then I'm willing to revisit this at that point.
Thank you. It looks like I'm seeing nods from people that they're willing to revisit in person and to go virtual if there's any increase in cases. Thank you all. So let's move on to item F3, discussion fall board retreat topics. I asked everyone to weigh in through, conversations and email on what type of retreat we wanted to have. It would be a full closed retreat or a partially business, partial retreat. It looks like, and it was pretty close, the opinions on it, but it looks like most people wanted to at least do some level of business, possibly looking at the board goals. Not necessarily the district goals, but looking at the board goals and revisiting their goals for their year. I did hear that. What type of things do you all want to look at for the retreat? As a reminder, our retreat is scheduled for October 16th, 2021, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So it's a 3-hour window. I will caution us that most trainers or facilitators, I should say, for board retreats want 3 hours. So we're trying to give them less time so that we can do other things. What type of things do you guys want to discuss? Trustee Warner.
Okay, so I think you've already said it. Basically, We have an extensive program in which we're going to revamp our 5-year goals and revisit our mission, our vision, and that's going to be spread out over the course of the school year. But we do need to have some short-term goals to run on in the meantime, and it's not really fair to wait till mid-year to come up with them. So my earlier thinking was that we would look at last year's goals and edit them and figure out what's still appropriate based upon that. Now, since that time, I believe Dr. Iverson has sent us an email stating that she was going to come up with goals of her own that would be folded into her performance evaluation as part of the tool she's adopted. I'm interested to see what it is that Dr. Iverson comes up with and see if I like that better than what we've got. In any case, I'd like to compare the two documents and spend a little time talking about that in the retreat.
My question is, are your goals going to be ready by then?
So I'm working on my goals now. I'm hoping to send it home Friday in the update, based on the instrument that you sent to me that I did like. It's very clean. I like the format. I think we can stay with that. And so my goals will fold into that. But to the point of Trustee Warner around the strategic plan, normally the goals of that plan also are my goals to implement. So they will fold nicely into each other. And so we'll wait to see once this piece that I'm doing, collecting the data, and once we have all that, we're ready to roll into the district strategic plan, my goals they will fold right. I will make sure my goals fold right into that. And so.
Okay, wonderful. So we could do maybe 1 hour of that and then 2 hours of trustee work with communication. What came up earlier in exec session? Communication, information requests, expectations, just working together, really having, and I'm guessing we're going to do BOCES with that. I know I spoke with Ivy about that. NISBA trainings are usually 4 hours long and $2,000. BOCES are free, and they may be willing to do 2 hours. We do need to talk about location. If we do not have it in a school building, BOCES will be virtual only. If we have it in a school building, as of the last time she would come in person, I don't know what the status will be come October 16th. So what say you, Trustee Dragic?
Well, actually, first I have a question. Is whoever the facilitator is going to be, is this person going to do some formulaic sort of team building thing, kind of like they did the last time, or are we going to sort of provide them with topics that we're interested in that they would address? So that's like the first question I have before.
So if we want to do, I just briefly read some things. If we want to do that, we will tell them that. So
Okay.
that's what happened before. We told them we want to do team building, we want to do kind of how to work together, and that's what they put together for us, the one we had last time. So whatever you all share with me that you would like in our, I guess, 2-hour retreat, facilitated retreat, is what they will provide.
Okay, so I have a follow-up, if I may. So, so at our last retreat, we had a facilitator, and then we also had our attorney come and join us. And I don't know how everyone else felt, but my impression was that actually the discussion with the attorney was more useful than with the facilitator, and because they don't have because our attorney is not going to hold us to 3 or 4 hours or whatever, maybe that's something that we could consider, is actually bringing our attorneys back, giving them an agenda of things that we wish to talk about, and then using them as a sort of a facilitator.
Okay. Anyone agree with that, disagree, want to add on? I'm okay with that. I will tell you, I did talk with our Carol from Jasmine, and we have Ms. Tylena here today from Jasmine, and I did talk to Carol about communication requests and working together with the superintendent, talking about roles, administrative roles, board roles, and she was pretty clear that that's not necessarily legal. So if we do have our attorneys do the facilitating, and I will state, I agree with you, it's very helpful to have Carol do that. We will need to be very specific about what legal topics we want
Got it.
our attorneys to facilitate and to address, to train us on. So, does anybody have any suggestions?
Well, I don't think
Seeing
we can do both, right? So we're gonna, because so I think it's gonna be either the BOCES or the attorney, and then it sounds like we're also adding our own discussion, which I think you're saying it will be public, actually.
that part needs to be public if we're talking about our goals.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So again, guys, we've only allotted 3 hours for this. Do you guys want more time to think about it? I see trustee Pineda.
3 hours doesn't sound very realistic for what we're trying to cover,
Right.
frankly. So either we adjust our timing or we adjust what we want to cover.
I will agree with you. So the other thing that came up, one of the other topics was discussing the mansion. I think people like that topic as well, but again, after talking with our attorneys, it was advised that we could handle that in a series of special meetings. We could handle our goals in a series of special meetings and just have a retreat be a closed retreat, or we could maybe handle our goals in more of this fashion, maybe have a 4-hour retreat and do 2-hour goals or 1.5-hour goals. What do people feel like doing?
How long did you say the BOCES presentation would be?
So BOCES is pretty flexible with us. It is free, and they're flexible. So they would fit into the 2 hours. I believe that's what they did before. NISBA, I believe, is 3 to 4 hours, Ivy? Yeah, and theirs is $2,000. If you want some more time to think about it, that's fine. I see trustee Werner?
Okay, so obviously I would prefer BOCES to NISBA due to cost primarily. I think BOCES can probably handle the same sorts of things that we need, and probably it doesn't need to take 3 or 4 hours. I think we can make some progress in a couple of hours. So I'm fine with that. So now the question is, are we better off with BOCES, or are we better off with a series of legal topics? Both have value. I'm feeling like I've been to so many of the legal topics in the past that I don't know what other people don't know. So I want to hear from other people, what legal topics do you want to hear? And then I can make a judgment.
Trustee Valen, I haven't heard from you in a while.
A couple thoughts. One, as a fall, beginning of the year retreat, I think it's interesting for us as a new group to continue working on understanding and with the new administration, understanding our communication protocols and information requests and just how we want to work together as far as information flow. I don't know if that would be covered by BOCES, but I'm talking about practical tools and solutions and identifying pathways of information. If we're talking about legal issues, just trying to look at my notes on what I'd suggested before. I wouldn't mind covering more on different hiring policies, EEOC, OSHA, harassment, and related topics. That's all.
Can night.
Thank you, Trustee Valen. You gave us a lot to chew on. Trustee Dragic, and then I want to hear from you, Trustee Thomas, please.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to follow up on what Chris said. I think actually this is what I was sort of trying to get at, is that we really, and so actually what I was going to say was, I'm not sure that we really need a facilitator or even legal to be there and sort of lecture us. I think we actually almost need more like a mediator to help us sort of establish these protocols, these communication protocols, and then I think for the new trustees, there are legal issues that probably they would like to hear about.
Okay, and Trustee Thomas?
I guess I like the idea of BOCES coming in, excuse me, from a legal perspective. I personally, I get a better understanding of those things when we're talking about the specific things that kind of come up versus the broad, here's the legal classification, like that. Those things don't stick with me. So I like the idea of doing the conversation around BOCES and having a conversation around goals where we really cement that. And then, compare and contrast to what Dr. Iverson comes up with for the official board, I forgot the name of it, strategic plan.
Okay. Trustee Pineda, I think you would be last for me to hear from.
It sounds like we want to cover a lot. We don't have enough time, which is usually the case. There's a lot to cover and there's not enough time. I think in terms of priorities, right, because we have to cover everything, it might be more useful to go the BOCES route, in my opinion, just to fine-tune what we have already. And legal, I mean, we can always ask more legal questions as we go. We have a practice of doing that. We have to learn as we go anyways, right? That would be my opinion. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Okay, so we're looking at a 2-hour BOCES. What do you guys want to do first? Do you want to do the goal setting first and discussion from 10 to 11, or do you want to do that from 12 to 1? So we would do 10 to 11. Oh, yes, Trustee Pineda?
I would recommend that we do the BOCES first, and then that gives us time to tackle the second part after. I suspect that's where we may take a little bit longer.
Okay, so Trustee Pineda is suggesting we do goals from 10 to 11 only, and then BOCES from 11 to 1.
I think you said the opposite.
I'm
The
sorry?
reverse.
Reverse. BOCES from 10 to 12, and then goals from 12 to 1. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's move forward. Ivy, if possible, could you contact BOCES again and let them know that we're interested in resuming our training with them? Our training this time will be more on communication protocols, information flow, working together with board and superintendent, communication, et cetera, relationship building. And we would ask that they would be available from 10 to 12 p.m. on a Saturday morning, October 16th. Now we have to talk about location. Where do you guys want to have this 3-hour training or retreat, excuse me?
Well, it sounds like BOCES might want to have it be virtual. I think that's what you were saying, is that you don't know if they would come to the school.
Right, so it sounded like the last time she was willing to come to the school, but not any other location. I see Trustee Valen's hand up.
If the last part of the meeting will be discussing goals and needs to be public, we need to be where it can be televised.
Right.
Okay, so that being said, is everyone okay with having it here or some other environment? I see heads nodding. Yes, No? Any opposition? If not, we'll move forward with here. Trustee Thomas?
I was just going to say here or virtual.
Okay, sounds good. So location will be here, Ivy? I guess right on the stage with some fans going, though, because it's going to be hot, or maybe it'll cool off by then. Okay, thank you all. That was a long section. Let's move forward to, yes, I'm sorry, Ivy?
In terms of logistics, if you're going to do the retreat portion first, would you like to do it in the art room where you've been meeting, where it's air-conditioned, and then do your open meeting on the stage, as opposed to doing as opposed to doing the BOCES retreat on the stage?
Love that idea. So somewhere in this building that is air-conditioned. And so let's move forward to the next agenda item. Sorry, Trustee Valen?
No, I was just going to point out that we skipped section E.
I did. Hold on a second, I'm sorry.
Isn't that for next time?
Oh, reviewing the agenda for
items for next meeting.
items for next meeting, yeah, I don't read that.
Normally, the board president will ask board members if they have any questions on the items that are listed for the next meeting's consideration.
Excuse me, Trustee Valen, it is my first year, I'm sorry for that. So, trustees, if you forgive me, can we leave a pin in section F3 and go back to section E, reviewing agenda items for our next meeting? We have several items here. I think it's 1 through 17. I trust that you all have looked through these items and you will continue to look through them. Are there any questions on these items that are set for our next meeting? Yes, Trustee Dragic.
Actually, I had a quick meeting. The McCormick Consulting Services, we will be meeting with them next week. Okay.
So they will be present? It's an agenda item for next week.
For next week.
Yes, the contract is scheduled to be considered for board approval at next week's meeting. Unless you want him here.
Oh, I was under the impression that he was going to come speak to us. I saw that in,
No, that's
I don't think I made it
that's a
up.
different vendor.
He was not planning, okay. All right, so the answer is no then. Okay.
Okay, so he will not be present. Do you want to invite him? Would you like him to be invited? If he's
We can
available?
reach out to him to see if he can be here to answer questions, or I can answer questions, but that's something we just had not done yet.
Would you want him to come, Trustee?
I mean, I think so, yeah. It's not to grill him, but yeah, I think it would be, yeah.
Okay,
I'll see if we can contact him.
Okay, thank you.
sounds good, thank you. Any other trustees have any questions about, yes, Trustee Valen?
Sorry, I actually had a question on that same item. Just curious, first of all, did we review any other proposals? Or was this the only one we have?
He was the only one we looked at, yes.
Okay.
He's the same person, I think, that worked with the district some years ago, so we just sort of kept that relationship.
Which, when I was trying to look at the contract from a few years ago, it just seems like a pretty big jump unless I'm missing a piece of the puzzle as far as the fees for the services. So I do have a concern about that. More than that, I can't really say.
Well, that's fair, Trustee Valen. So you're saying you looked at previous billings from the last time he provided the services, and it's a large jump, you're saying, and you're wondering what services are going to be added. So hopefully he can come, so then he can explain a little bit more about what services are different that's more expensive.
I don't know what he did before, but I think what he submitted for this contract was very clear, unless you have a question about what he's going to be doing in this contract. He did include a very clear information about that, but I don't know the difference in what he did before and now. So I can,
I know that the follow-up phase was not there before. I know that basically what he did previously, I believe the focus areas were basically his brainchild. He brought in the large community group, and we got together and prioritized everything and divided everything up under the various headings so that we would have a coherent plan from it. And then we all agreed upon what the priorities were, and then he kind of said, good, thank you, and go to it. And that involved fewer sessions and less time, and I don't think he worked as much with individuals before he got everybody together in the big group. So this, it looks like a more extensive process. If I had a criticism of last time, I kind of thought we should have gone into more depth and detail about exactly how we made sure that everything was measurable. And so I think this is a more extensive contract, and I think he can do a good job of this, and so I have no issue.
Great, thank you, Trustee Warner. Is there any other question regarding any of the agenda items scheduled for next meeting under Section E? Trustee Warner?
I did have something regarding the treasurer's report, but I believe that has already been addressed. If you look at the, if you,
Please give me the agenda item.
treasurer's reports for June and July, that's item 3.
Thank you.
And I talked to Lisa about it, and basically it appeared that the balance plus income, and then you went down to the bottom of the first column, and then you took the disbursements out, and it didn't add up. And she found that there are certain items that need to be added in that weren't. I don't know if you want to describe this, Lisa, but they can modify the table so that it'll always be accurate, and the numbers will always add. Go ahead.
Sure. So if you look at one of the treasurer's report, if you look at the last paragraph, so for example, for July 2021, it says the general fund beginning balance for July 2021 was $32,438,077.05. The district received a total of $761,807.45 in receipts and issued $813,123.32 in payroll checks and $2,740,088.78 in accounts payable checks. It should then go on to also say that there were due to other funds of $215,000. Therefore, the ending balance for the general fund was $29,431,672.40 as detailed above. So if you took that paragraph and you did the math, you would see that you were $215,000 off. And that's because the due to other funds is not listed there. So in the future, in that paragraph, if there are any due to or due from any other funds, we will make sure that we detail it there so that if anybody does the math, that it will add up.
Good, thanks.
Okay. Mr. Warner, you did say you spoke to Lisa about this. Was it like an email? I'm just wondering if in the future all of us could know about it ahead of time? Because I don't have my computer open, so I heard Ms. Raymond, but I'll have to go back and watch the YouTube with my computer open to look at the reports at the same time. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't have an email on that. I just talked to her. So can you send her something? Or send us something?
Certainly, if you'd like me to send an email, I can do that.
Okay, or I can watch the meeting back to hear, to open it up and to look at it, so I can understand what your question was, because I don't have it in front of me, is what I mean. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions about Section E? I see none, so we're going to go back to Section F. Thank you for that reminder, Trustee Valen. So we finished with F3, the fall board retreat topics. We're now on F4, any new business? Yes, trustee Warner.
Okay, a couple of announcements. So we have two district committees that have upcoming meetings. One is the Community Engagement and Communications meeting, and that's scheduled for September 27th at 7 p.m. It will be a virtual meeting. You'll be able to look at the Zoom topic that we'll post on the district website. And then the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting, which was originally scheduled for September 22nd, that happens to overlap with Back to School Night here at Woodlands. So we're rescheduling that to September 30th, and that's also at 7 p.m., I believe. And we're going to similarly post that on the website. If anyone wants to join the committees, we are required to have if you want to be a voting member, we're required to have an agenda item in which we pass that. So I have put out a request and some people from last year have already responded saying they want to rejoin. And there may be some new people who want to join. So if you want to do that, then you should contact Ivy Kraus, the district clerk, by email. That's ikraus, IKRAUS, at greenbergcsd.org. That's IKRAUS at greenbergcsd.org, and let her know what committee you would like to join. Thank you.
Okay, any other trustees have any new business?
Yes.
Yes? Trustee
Yes.
Dragic?
Yes, so, in the Assistant Superintendent of Business report that we received, Ms. Raymond gave us an update about the vote for the mansion roof. And there were some issues there that I didn't quite understand about the timing of the vote versus the spending of the money versus I can't remember what, there were sort of three things that were supposed to kind of happen and that weren't going to happen in the right timing. So I'd like you
Sure.
to explain that to the board and also to the community.
Sure. So a capital reserve acts like a savings account. So to set up the reserve, to create the reserve, to fund the reserve, and to spend money from the reserve all in the same year is frowned upon by the commissioner and the comptroller of the state of New York. So the vote that we want to have in December would be to create the reserve. We don't have to ask the taxpayers to move the money from the repair reserve to the from the repair reserve to the capital reserve, because if you remember when we did that for the construction phase 1, it was done by a hearing. So it says that the Board of Education can move the money as long as they have a public hearing to let the public know that they're moving the money there for future projects. Then, in speaking with our two attorneys, our construction attorney, Laura Granelli, and Carol Melnick, they recommended that perhaps we have another meeting with the architects to discuss the condition of the mansion now as opposed to when it was last done for the 5-year plan, to see where we're at, what they feel it would take to be able to open or move back into the mansion, just to give an update to see if anything else has happened before we ask the public to do any more improvements there.
Okay, so I have a few follow-up questions. So first of all, the vote is simply for the creation of the capital reserve and not for the transfer of money, which is done by a board action.
Correct.
Okay. And can you just elaborate a little bit more on this frowned upon by the commissioner? I mean, is he going to come in?
Well, there have, and I apologize, I don't have it with me, but there is a commissioner's decision So basically what a capital reserve is there to do is, again, for a district to save money for a future capital project in its, not so much in its entirety, but it isn't there for piecemeal work. So they don't want you to use a capital reserve to say, we would like to use the money to replace the curbs at LF Jackson. It would be something, it would encompass more of the work that would happen there. It would be a bigger project. You're saving your money to do something bigger. And that capital reserve money can be used in conjunction with a bond. So for example, let's say that you, as a board, chose to do, replace the roofs and do all of the ventilation in all of the school districts. You could put a referendum up, a proposition up to the taxpayers that say, we would like to do this project. It's going to cost us $15 million, but in the capital reserve, we have $5 million. So we want to ask the taxpayers, let us use the $5 million towards this and bond $10 million. Or if you had $15 million, you could say, let me use all of the $15 million to do this project. It's for something on a larger scale. So the thought was, with speaking with our attorneys, that perhaps, again, we should have BBS come in and give you guys an update, or give the Finance and Facilities Committee first maybe an update on the status of the mansion and what it would need to be habitable. And then you guys can go from there to make your decisions on what you'd like to do.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. So I'm just going to leave them, I'm just going to do a hypothetical here. So let's say, for example, that we actually needed to replace the entire roof, which we kind of do, right, on Woodlands, right? Are you saying that the commissioner would frown upon us doing this? On the one hand, we would be required to do it from a capital reserve, and then on the other hand, we wouldn't really be allowed to do it because we would need to go make it part of a bigger project?
No, I'm not saying that they wouldn't allow you to do it. That's not what it's saying. It's just saying that it shouldn't be, if you know that you have more to do in the grander scheme of things. So for example, if you replace the roof, could central office move back in there? And I would venture to say that in the state that it's in now, it would be no, because there's interior work that would have to be done. So the thought is that, yes, you have SED approval to do the roof, but what has to be done inside, combine that all into one project instead of piecemealing it, if you're going to use money from the capital reserve.
Got it. All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Trustee Warner?
Sure. So is there any difficulty with our perhaps inviting BBS to our next Finance and Facilities Committee meeting?
I don't think so. I can ask them tomorrow because they will be here on site. Just for the board's knowledge, we will be opening the energy performance contract tomorrow here on campus. BBS will be here, and I will speak with Fred and/or Jim and ask them if they're available for the September 30th meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other trustees that want to be recognized? I did have a question. Sorry, Mr. Thomas, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to quickly say, it's not new business, it's actually old business at this point. We talked about having a back-to-school barbecue. The board was not able to do it. It is still going to happen, and, I would love for the board, the teachers, the community to be there. We'll have back-to-school giveaways, backpacks, supplies. It'll be at Yosemite Park this Saturday from 12 to 5, and we're going to have a good time, and good food, good music, all that good stuff.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Thomas. I wanted to ask another question about the mansion. I know we had that flood, and there was some water that did get in, and there was some dehumidifiers. How often is someone checking on the mansion, the status of any water getting in, any mold growing, any animals in the mansion?
Well, as you know, our groundskeeper, so to say, he is housed there in the on the side of the mansion is where his shop is. So he is there daily. I do know that Sammy and Rich are always there, and Mike Falcone does go there to monitor and review. He also, Mike, has been going through to try to collect some artifacts so they don't get ruined, as was requested, so that we could store them somewhere else until the mansion, all the work is done there. So I would say there is somebody there daily. How often they go in the building, I would say they go in at least 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay, for clarity, the people who are there, Sammy, Rich, and the groundskeeper, they're outside of the mansion because,
Rich is the groundskeeper.
Okay.
He is housed there. That's where all his equipment and everything is.
oh, but he doesn't sit in there?
No,
'cause there
no,
was-
no, no,
Okay,
no, no. It's on the side. There's like a garage.
okay,
He's housed there.
got it, thank you.
And Sammy works on our grounds, so he is housed between the teacher center and ECP in that building there. And Mike is always there. I think Mike visits there at least once a day. I'm not sure if he goes in every day, but I do know that he goes there every day because that is where our vehicles are housed in the parking lot.
Okay.
And that's where they need to drop the vehicles off every night per the vehicle use policy.
Okay, wonderful. Is there any other new business? I did have one question, but I want to give trustees opportunity. Yes, trustee Dragic?
So I had a follow-up question. You just reminded me with your questions. Was the water pumped out of the mansion after that pipe burst?
I'm not positive about that. I'd have to double-check with Mike. But I do know that there was obviously the remediation done, and our environmental science company was in, as well as our insurance company, to make, for the mold and the asbestos removal. So I would venture to say yes, but I'd have to double-check with Mike.
Yeah, would you please? Thank you.
Quick apologies for the weird interjection. I thought that other conversation was over before.
It's okay. Do you have any questions about the mansion?
Got a bunch of questions about the mansion.
Okay. Any other trustees? Excuse me. Okay, I did have a topic, something that came up in inquiry. I think this is for the business office. It's a question about our food services, our food selection. So it has been announced, hopefully everyone knows, that we do offer free breakfast and lunch for our students. So the question is, have there been any changes to the menu or the quality of food since it is now free and being given by the state? Is there any, I know prior we had looked at the menus from Aramark and were told that we could get different selections if, more monies were paid kind of out of pocket for different food selections. There was even a committee at one point that visited other schools and saw other selections. So is there a change in our quality or our food selection since the food is actually free?
I'm not positive about that, but I will definitely check with Gary, and I'll put that in your board update.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I do not see any other hands for new business. Mr. Pineda?
It's not new business, it's just piggybacking off of what you just said. We have heard parents talk about food selection for a while now. So, Ms. Raymond, once you have your analysis, please come back to us and we'll have to discuss if we need to make any changes based off of that. There are other school districts that obviously have different menus with the same vendors, and we could perhaps improve. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Pineda. Mr. Warner?
I noticed that I backed off when we did our committee selection from being on the audit committee to give other people a chance to be on. But we ended up with only 2 people on the audit committee from the board. Does anybody else want it? If not, I'd like to rejoin the audit committee.
Welcome. I don't see anyone else jump into the,
Anybody jumping? All right, great, thank you.
okay, Ivy, can you make that notation to put trustee Warner on the audit committee with trustee Valen and myself and update the website as well with that, I guess, information? Thank you. And is there any other new business, trustees? It's 10:48 PM. We've been at it since 7. Seeing no other business, can I get a motion for adjournment, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded for adjournment. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. We are now adjourned. Thank you and good night.
Aye.